And that is just a taste of what this weapon can do. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Hipster's Choice, where I take you on a road trip through the most underrated and underappreciated weapons in TF2. Today we're looking at the Pyro's version of a backstab, the Backburner, or as I like to call it, the Chad's version of the Phlog. To figure out why, let's take a look. The Backburner visually is a pretty nothing burger of a weapon design. It's a stock flamethrower but with a dragon head up the front of it. It looks cool, but aside from the dragon head, it's identical. Maybe I missed something. Aside from how it looks, it has two very simple stats. The first is that when attacking an enemy from behind, and sometimes from the front, it'll deal full critical hits. Not mini crits, full crits. This factor will drop an enemy within milliseconds. If this was its only stat, it'd undoubtedly be the best flamethrower in the game. But unfortunately, there's a bit more. If you ever so much as tap right click, no matter what you're doing, you'll consume 25% of your entire ammo pool. 50 ammo gone. This is because the Backburner's downside is plus 150% air blast cost, making its normal ammo consumption go from 20 to 50. This isn't so much of a downside for someone who sucks at air blast anyway, like I do, but it can feel devastating reducing your ammo pool to nothing trying to deflect a soldier's rockets or a demo's pills. In my experience, I found that the Backburner is very similar to the Phlog for a couple of reasons. One, you want to be a bit sneakier when you're using it. You can only make the Backburner's upside work when you're behind the enemies after all, as much as what I said before might say otherwise. If you get behind the enemy, you can drop a lot of them before they even have a chance to react, let alone kill you. Medics especially fall quickly to the Backburner. However, attacking an enemy from the front still isn't the worst idea ever. It does deal as much damage as stock from the front after all. The Backburner thrives on unaware enemies. The longer the enemy doesn't know you're there, the more powerful the Backburner is. Again, it's a lot like playing Spy. Now that sounds great, but again, let's talk about that downside. The Backburner is a lot like how Fishstick said in his video about the Phlog on how he'd rework it. Sacrifice a quarter of the meter for an air blast. The Backburner is similar, but instead of sacrificing the meter, you're sacrificing your ammo pool. Now that I think about it, I disagree a lot with the idea of giving the Phlog an air blast in exchange for a quarter of the meter. Wouldn't that render the Backburner's purpose of providing flamethrower crits completely useless? Oh well. Let's talk about your secondaries and melees. Before I get into that though, I want to mention that I am far from a Pyro main. When I play Pyro, I play stock flamethrower, a shotgun, and the extinguisher. This means that I'm quite far from qualified to be discussing the strengths of a flamethrower side grade as specialized as this one, but I'm going to anyway because that's what I want to do. Your secondaries actually matter a lot here. I'd say the flare guns, aside from one, I'll get into it in a bit, are the worst picks. Scorch Shot and the regular flare gun will just alert people to your presence rather than provide any legitimate benefit. The shotguns are good, but not my choice here either. Don't bother with the reserve shooter on Pyro, just ever. Now let's talk about the two best choices here. I mentioned the flare guns weren't good on Pyro. Well, that's excluding one, the detonator. I'm not good at detonator jumps, never have been, but even with my limited detonator experience, the weapon is still fantastic for getting around, and especially behind people for the crit benefits. My actual secondary choice is the thermal thruster. With this jetpack, when you so much as press mouse 1 or 2, you'll fly across the map, and if no one notices you, you can torch everybody in a matter of seconds with this item. It's amazing, it's reliable, it's good for getting out of there once you've killed 2 or 3 people. It's the thermal thruster. Hey, Shazma from the edit here. I realized I'd forgotten about the gas passer, so I thought I'd add a little side bit before I continue with the melees. Don't fucking use it, it's terrible. Please and thank you. You'll get nothing done with the gas passer. Now, as for your melees, I have a few different choices. If your team doesn't have a medic, use the back scratcher. This one won't have many downsides in exchange for the much needed survivability from the added health pack bonus. Another melee I like here is the power jack for the same reasons as the thermal thruster, for getting around easier. The vulnerability sucks, but it's not the biggest hindrance ever. The extinguisher is fine, I suppose, but since you can hardly air blast with the Backburner, it's not worth it a lot of the time. Besides, if you're in the process of crit incinerating the entire team with your Backburner, what's the point? The Fire Axe and the Third Degree have no synergy with the Backburner, or really any flamethrower for that matter, but if you don't want to use the Back Scratcher or Power Jack, or just straight up don't have one of them, they are serviceable, I guess. Better yet, just pretend they don't exist, yeah? The same can be said for the Sharpened Volcano Fragment. I plan to go over this weapon and a playstyle alike with it in a future episode, but until then, just know that it's not the worst weapon ever. I wouldn't even say it's Pyro's worst melee, but it does nothing for the Backburner. Just pretend it doesn't exist if you're using it. And one more thing, don't use the Hot Hand. It sucks dick. I guess if you want to meme and get the speed boost to get around the enemy, you can, but just use the detonator for that. It's so much easier. Now, let's get into playstyle. While you're using the Backburner, you'll want to pretend to be a spy wearing a gas mask. Get behind people without them noticing and nigh insta-kill them with your Backburner. Now, this seems difficult, right? Getting behind the extremely competent enemy team to kill them without the ability to disguise or cloak? It's not as difficult as it sounds. See, when you're attacking a group of people faced away from you, there's a good chance it's probably because they're doing something important, i.e. killing your team. That means they're distracted by their own tasks enough for you to get behind and kill them all. It's easier than it sounds. This playstyle will allow you to make the most out of your upsides and the least out of your downsides. I say the least out of your downsides because if you kill the soldier before he shoots a rocket at you, you won't need to reflect it back at him. Now, does this playstyle work every time? No. Is it fun as hell when it works? Yes. Will you want to smash your head into a brick wall sometimes because your gun feels like it's shooting bubbles and confetti at the enemy team sometimes? Also yes. But stick by and every now and then you'll get to feel that rare high moment where you go on a rampage and kill 5 or 6 enemies. Overall, the choice is largely up to preference, but if you suck with Air Blast and want a way to play a more ambush-centric playstyle as Pyro without the use of the Phlog, give this weapon a go. I think people underrate it a lot. Comparing it to other flamethrowers, I find that the Backburner is sort of a middle ground between the Phlog and stock. You don't get the insane highs of crit killing everyone from whichever angle with the Phlog, but you do get to retain the ability to extinguish your teammates and reflect rockets at a bigger cost to you. It's an underrated mindset that I don't think enough people, well, think of. With that, I think that about does it for the Backburner. It's a very interesting weapon that I had a lot of fun messing around with, even if the first and second recordings went to shit. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, go out there and face stab people as Pyro, and have a good one. What did I see?
I was like, and I said it to told Susie about it. She's like, when are you gonna write a book? I'm like, I want to read that book. Like, that's the start of a good book.
Maybe I should continue that, man. That sounds good.